The San Jose Sharks take an L on this Black Friday against the Los Angeles Kings 5-2. We've got new jerseys on the scene. Maybe that'll make us a little bit happier to talk about that than the game. But we'll get to all that and more on this edition of Teal Town After Dark. But first, if you want to be a part of the show and Teal Together with us, check us out across all the social media platforms, that being the YouTube chat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, Reddit, Discord, and of course the TikToks. Check out all that and more on tealtownusa.com and hit us up on the Venmo if you like. Your tax dollars at work on the show. I'm pleased to be joined by Puck Guy and Dana at the game, and I've got Ian as well on the panel. Puck Guy, first off, initial reactions to the game?
The initial reactions to the game alongside Dana Meyerson, who's made the trip all the way from Missouri with her lovely husband. Dana, this game wasn't fun.
It was fun being here. No, genuinely, it was a lot of fun.
I'm not gonna. I mean, you can kind of see us, but we are twinning up. We both have reverse retro jerseys, and we're also supporting Erik Karlsson here as well.
Points tonight. What a bum.
Yeah, no, get rid of him. Trade him back to Ottawa. Yeah, of course. But Dana, I mean, the atmosphere here. I mean, a pretty solid crowd. If it weren't a sellout, I mean, it was a great crowd. Great to see you guys in real life for once. So, but overall, the experience tonight as it is.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was definitely a big contrast with the Ottawa game I attended on Monday, which was, the Sharks playing a worse team, better result, but definitely nowhere near as lively and crowded. And you know what? There were a lot of Kings fans here, loud and proud. Oh, hello. What happened? I didn't want to be on camera. I call BS. No, yeah, there were a lot of kids here with their youth hockey teams. They were all gunning for the Kings. They were annoying, but I loved it, I could care for a couple fewer Go Kings Go chants that all the fans around us allowed to happen. I tried to get some more going in my section, but still overall a great time.
Yeah, a great time indeed, despite the loss. It's amazing what new threads will do to a crowd, and let's be honest, new scarves. And the scarves are pretty sweet. We got to talk to some people to see if we can get some more. I know AJ has a hookup in some form. I don't know where he could be right now, but on that. Overall, I think it was a tough one to take. Kings just got going really early, despite the offside, and even that carried the momentum into it. But unfortunately, just not to be overall. But still a loud crowd, even though there were some "Go Kings Go" chants, indeed, for that one. Anything to add, really?
Yeah, it was kind of a stinker, but whenever I go to a game in person, I always say, as long as the Sharks score one goal, which means we can get up and cheer, and they scored two. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe my standards are low, but I had a great time being here tonight, and I guess we're back on the Tankathon.
Yeah, back on the Tankathon. Unfortunately, Dana's winning streak came to an end tonight.
Yeah, no, fun fact, I'm undefeated at Sharks games since, significantly before the pandemic. I think this is, my seventh or eighth game. They finally lost. But I had been being very selective about the opponents that I chose to attend. It ended up just being, worse teams, but I couldn't resist this one because the giveaway and rivalry, and I ruined my streak. So never let me set foot in SAP Center ever again. I will cause the Sharks to lose, although that could be a good thing, depending on which side you're on.
Yeah, for Bedard, or for that matter, we'll get her off the schneid and everything. Oh, look who's here.
Oh.
If you guys could move it along, we have a bar mitzvah to prepare for.
Hey,
This man has no media pass. This man has.
yeah, we got to get him out. It's security. Security. All right. With that, we'll send it to you guys. You guys carry it away. Seal, teal, and gold does look nice, but just and on the ice too. But unfortunately for success, not so much. But again, a nice experience despite the loss. Ian, Landy, break this one down, and Ian, get angry, please, because this was not a pretty one. All right, man? All right.
I'll do my best.
I appreciate it. All the best. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving and Thursday, and we'll see you. Well, no, on Thursday, damn it.
Pucknology is takeover Sunday, is what I'm saying.
He thinks. All right, Landy, back to you. Wrong video feed, Landy.
There we go. I think that should get us back up. Ian, I mean, good to have you on this evening as well. I think going through just having the live reactions always fun, but breaking this one down, I mean, for that first period, Jarrett Anderson-Dolan with his first goal of the season, Lizotte and Doughty with the assists there. I mean, it should have been, I think it could have been worse than that first, but scoring 8 minutes in, more of the same.
Yeah, I thought the Sharks started really slow, but the one thing I will say though, like, is if you were a fan of just like pretty fucking goals, those first 3 goals that were scored in this game were like chef's kiss, like, and then things kind of got off the rails a little bit later. But I mean, the first 3 goals in this game, all of them, like the 2 by the Kings, the 1 by the Sharks, like they were just nice goals. But yeah, look, the Sharks weren't good tonight. I don't think they played very well in front of Reimer. Reimer was very not good tonight. I don't know, like, is he back too soon? Like, we don't know what was nagging him. I don't know if it's just like, maybe, could he have sat for another game? I mean, maybe after the way Kaapo Kähkönen played the last game, he thought, well, no, I'll just, I can go back in. But I don't know what was with Reimer tonight, and I don't know anything. Like, I'm not in the room, so I mean, for all I know, James Reimer was 100%, and he just had a shitty night, which happens. But obviously, when you miss a game and then you come back and have a performance like he did tonight, I think you have to at least ask the question.
Yeah, I mean, the first goal, I thought going in, it's one of those shots that's taken from the blue line. And, pretty innocuous. And it's like, that's one of those ones that are just kind of automatic that you kind of just always got to have, it's kind of got to be routine. And, he made some good saves later on in the game, but
yeah,
it was just when the Sharks whenever they were able to wrestle back some momentum and they were able to tie it up with Kevin Labank's fourth with Meier and Hurdle getting the assists.
Yeah, another just good goal there. I mean, the patience that Kevin Labanc showed there, like just the poise and the patience, and then just a really nice shot. It's like, probably, I don't know, like I feel like that goal for Kevin Labanc, like when Kevin Labanc's career is all said and done and you want to like go back and like make a highlight reel of like Kevin Labanc's career, that goal's got to be on it.
Yeah, for sure. And like I kind of alluded to, in a little bit prior, they got that momentum back with Kevin's goal. I felt like that they were playing better after that. But then you get the goal from, I think it's Philip No, his 7th of the season, with Arvidsson and Durs getting the assists Dursey, excuse me, I didn't see the I. But Dursey getting the assists there on the power play, and you just see the team sag once again. And it's getting those saves at the
yeah, those weren't the goals that I had an issue with. Like, it was the ones that came after.
Right.
Like, I didn't really have an issue with the first or second goal the Kings scored. It's the third and fourth that I thought really were deflating.
Yeah, and I think, like you had said, you just kind of don't know what you're going to get back there from night to night. And, this had been a thing that we had seen with Sharks teams prior and in years prior, where it was just a complete question mark as to what you were going to get from night to night in goal.
Yeah.
And that's really hard for a team to try and play in an offensive style or try to have any kind of confidence when you're always worrying about if the goaltender is going to let in a softie on you. And again, we'll go into that second period, and we'll break down, I think, which is the goal that you had talked about that was most deflating, was that Victor Arvidsson goal, his fourth of the season with Fiala, and Dursey getting the assist there. And that came 4 minutes and 39 seconds into that second period. And that one, I think you'll look at
Reimer just has to have that. Like, you can't really like beat around the bush here. There's no way. Like, those last two goals, those have to be saves, period. Those have to be saves 100% of the time. And tonight they weren't. And for James Reimer, it's incredibly uncharacteristic for him to let, like, not only one of those goals in, but two of them in.
Right.
But again, like, I don't hang this completely on Reimer because I don't think the team in front of him played that good. Like, it just wasn't a good overall effort by the Sharks, period. Like, yeah, those two goals were bad, but the team in front of him wasn't doing anything. Like, yeah, they had some chances here and there, but I thought the Kings carried the play a lot this game. And, so yeah, bad goals, obviously, when you're trying to just hang on, like, bad goals obviously don't help, but I don't think the Sharks, like, forwards, and the defense never does the team any favors, let's be honest, but I don't think the forwards did the Sharks too many favors either. Like, I thought they just looked kind of sloppy today.
Yeah. And I mean, the sloppiness, I think you could say that both teams had sloppy moments, and Alexander Barabanov was able to capitalize on one of those sloppy moments. He gets his third of the season, and that comes at 19:23, which you thought, okay, maybe the Sharks get a little bit of positive momentum going into the dressing room with a late goal. But again, not doing enough in the prior 19 minutes to really inspire a lot of confidence. The shots bear out very similar to both teams. I think it's 29-31 in favor of the Sharks, and the shot chart looked...
I would like to see the high danger chance discrepancy, though, because I feel like it would be lopsided in favor of the Kings, because I think the Sharks had a lot of one and done opportunities. Like, I don't think the Sharks were particularly, like, yes, there was points where obviously they had some offensive pressure, but I feel like, again, I think the Kings carried the play for a lot of goals. Like, and Jesse Littlefield in the chat, they're saying Barbie's goal was the Sharks' best slot presence all night. Like, I don't disagree. Like, yeah, he was in the right place, right time, and obviously a misplay by the Kings, and that he was able to capitalize on. But I thought that the Kings just carried the play this game.
Yeah, and I think it kind of, I think if we were to look at that high danger chance chart, I think it would kind of bear out there. And a lot, the other thing that I had saw, Ian, was a lot of pressure going east-west in the Sharks defensive zone, and I felt that they had Reimer moving post to post quite a lot. And to me, it just seemed like they came in with a little bit better of a game plan to attack the Sharks low, really kind of bear down on the defenseman and apply an extra forechecker or a little bit more forecheck pressure. And they were able to really stymie a lot of the Sharks, possession time when they did get the puck back.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Kings, like I said, like the Kings carried the play. Yeah, I think they did a lot of things right, but I just think the Sharks did a lot of things wrong. Like, I just don't think that. I think the Sharks looked really this game like they were just going through the motions.
Yeah, maybe a little bit too much turkey.
Who knows? And and there's a few teams that had rough games today, right? Because they had the day off yesterday. Obviously, it's a CBA mandated day off. No practices, no meetings, no nothing yesterday. So you do get that time off with your family, or, hopefully you're not on the road. And I think that I don't know, man. Like the Sharks just didn't look ready to play this game.
Yeah. Going into that third period, be more of the same with Rasmus Kupari getting his second of the season, Anderson Dolan getting an assist, and Kaliev getting an assist as well. That came 2:51 into the third. And after that goal, I think you could just see it extinguish pretty much any chance or thought that the Sharks had of coming back into this. And again, not that they had warranted to have much confidence going into that third period. But I did think that the Alexander Barabanov goal should have been a little bit of a pickup. And to see them come that flat-footed out in the third period, I think at that point I kind of just tuned out and really just was like, you know what, that's kind of where the game ends because, the team just not really responding well to those critical moments and not able to build upon good things that they are able to do. And I think that that's kind of been the story of the Sharks in total this season. It's just a team that has some really brilliant moments, a team that can, wow you with some talent when if it has a mismatch against a different line or is able to execute some high skill plays, but often it's followed up by subpar play. It's not built upon. It's not a complete effort or a complete game from 0 to 60. And again, I don't think that there are going to be very many different results with the team as constructed today. And I think it kind of bears out with what we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that the Sharks have benefited of late is like just really hot players kind of carrying the load. And like when everyone's off, like just like when you don't have like Timo Meier scoring everything that he, on a lot of what he's shooting. I mean, Timo Meier shoots the puck a lot, but he's had a lot of pucks go in, when that stops, when Erik Karlsson doesn't get us a point, and James Reimer, frankly, is not on his game. I think this is kind of the result that you expect. I think a lot of the Sharks' recent success, which isn't a whole lot when you consider that, I think their winning percentage now is like 370 or something like that. Like, so it's not, or their points percentage rather, so it's not like they've been world beaters by any stretch of the imagination. But when, my curiosity for this team was what happens when some of these guys cool off, and if everyone cools off all at once, look out.
Yeah, I think you could have some real extended pain if a lot of the team is falling off, and if like we had said before, the margin of error for this team is so small. I mean, any one mistake can sink a game for them, and I think the team just doesn't have enough depth to weather quite frankly, I mean, to weather some of the worst in the NHL. I mean, LA Kings, like it or not, are going to be on the up and coming, right? And
they're on the come up for sure.
And I don't see a team in the San Jose Sharks that's going to put up that big of a fight against this team for at least another 2 seasons. And again,
I think the Kings will be, I think in 2 more seasons, I think the Kings are going to be, I think that in 2 years, the Kings are definitely a playoff team. I don't know if I would go as far as say as they're a cup contender, but they're definitely like in the playoffs for sure.
Yeah. And they have a lot of, they have a lot of talent coming up, and they've got a lot of young talent now kind of replacing a lot of the old guard. So again, I think it's such
and
a
their old
juxtaposition.
guard. I mean, like I would like, who wouldn't want Anze Kopitar? Like even at his age, who wouldn't want Anze Kopitar on their team right now?
Right. I mean, and Anze getting the last goal of the game with Kempe getting the assist there. And Really, I mean, the dagger was already in the game at that point.
Oh yeah. But
the
point the empty netter goes in, that game was over.
Right.
But yeah.
And like Denver Doyle bringing up in the chat, we're describing a team that's got a very good top line. I wouldn't even say top two lines are good necessarily, because I don't think you, in an ideal world, would have Matt Nieto on a second line.
Well, no, Matt Nieto shouldn't be on the second line ever, but I digress.
Yeah. Again, disappointing start for the reverse retro 2.0s, and disappointing to see them coming into this game flat-footed after the holidays.
I mean, that was the Seals experience, though. I mean, I don't know. The Seals are way before my time, but I mean, that was the Seals experience, no?
Maybe they're doing them justice then.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I thought, I will say, like, I don't really care about the Seals because, again, like, I'm a Sharks fan. I'm not a Bay Area sports fan. I don't have any really, I mean, aside from the team that I cheer for and the friends I've made along the way, I don't really have any affinity to the Bay Area specifically. I just was like 11 years old and thought, man, a shark biting a hockey stick is really fucking cool.
Right.
And the teal's a really cool color. So I don't have any affinity to the Seals, but I thought that, like, it looked nice. I thought the gear all went pretty well together. Would I buy one? No, because again, like this, I don't have any affinity to the Seals. It doesn't mean anything to me. I understand why the Sharks would want to pay homage to them, especially with other teams paying homage to like past teams in their area, or maybe like previous teams in their franchise, like the Canes paying homage to the Whalers and Colorado to the Nordiques. So I understand like the Seals, it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I don't have any affinity to them, but I thought that looked nice.
Yeah, I had I think on the ice and with the players kind of playing in them, I think I like them better than the initial reveal. Like I had said, when they did reveal it, I felt it was very San Diego Chargers-esque with the vertical, almost vertical arm stripes, and felt it had a lot of NFL kind of vibe to it. But seeing it live and seeing it, on the ice, I think it looked nice, and I think that they did a good job.
I think they did a good job. Yeah, I think they did a good job. Like I said, it does nothing for me, but I think they still did a good job.
Yeah. So the Sharks would end tonight on the losing note, 5-2 against the LA Kings. James Reimer would post an .857 save percentage. Jonathan Quick with the win with a .935 save percentage.
Some vintage Quick tonight too.
Yeah, I thought he had some really good butterfly play of old. It looked like the hips of a 25-year-old.
the way he used to move around the bottom of the net, like, will never not impress me.
Right.
I know we're turning to the fucking Kings After Dark, and people are gonna fire me off air here, but the way Quick used to be able to play before, like, obviously the damage that did to his lower body, but the way he used to be able to move around the bottom of the net and just will never not impress me.
Yeah. I think, again, he had been fighting through a lot of injuries in the last 2 or 3 seasons, and it's always, when he plays the Sharks, he always gets up for those games for whatever reason. And tonight was definitely vintage Quick. You could say he looked 10 years younger, than he has in the last few years. So, again, the team putting up that disappointing game tonight, but I think we're kind of all eyes are looking towards the future now, Ian, and we've got some questions here in the chat.
It's not bright. Like, here's the thing though, right? Like, you want to like have faith in like obviously the future, but like, what has Mike Greer done so far? That's really worked out. Lindblom, that's been kind of a disaster.
Yeah.
Cunnin, disaster. Like
Lawrence.
It's really early, right? But like Lawrence is fine. Lawrence is exactly what he's supposed to be. But I don't know, like some of the early returns, and again, it's still early and things could obviously drastically change, but so far, if you had to give like Greer an early grade, it wouldn't be very high.
No, I think also as well, I look at the coaching staff and I also wonder about, where this coaching staff's going to be in a season and a half. And are they able to develop the young talent that will eventually bubble up? And is, David Quinn the right answer? Now, the offseason was so topsy-turvy, right? And you can't really judge him because of how topsy-turvy this offseason was. I'd like to give him another offseason to see if he's able to implement systems a little bit better. But as of right now, Ian, I don't see a lot of difference between a Bog Bubner coach team and a David Quinn coach team.
Oh, I do. Here's some differences, right? Like, I think one thing, like in Denver in the chat said, like, I don't know how much David Quinn had to do with it, but obviously Erik Karlsson has had quite a turnaround this year. And is that because of David Quinn? I don't know, but it could be a difference. And the other thing too that I think is, like, David Quinn generally, like, he will generally go to his best guys. He doesn't go into a 3-on-3 and throw fucking Bonino, Sturm, and pick your other plug, Jacob Magna, to start the 3-on-3.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if you're a Jacob Magna fan, but I was pulling names out of a hat here. You know what I mean? Like, there has been things where I think there has been differences where I have liked, but here's the problem though, right? Like, even if David Quinn isn't the guy, he has to be the guy for now.
Correct.
Because eventually, and I said this last show when we were talking about Vancouver briefly, and I'm just saying, like, how many coaches does one core get? Right. So I think, like, David Quinn, is he the right guy? Is he the wrong guy? I don't know, but I think it's something that you have to at least let it play out at this point as you start to turn over the roster and start to do different things to get back into attempt at respectability. So I'm not really, again, what you want to give credit or not give credit to David Quinn for, that's up to you. But I think at this point, it's worth letting it play out.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much choice you have at this juncture, right? You've already, swapped.
And Ricky, I agree with Ricky too. He's saying, like, there's massive system differences too. I think Quinn, like, the Sharks have done a lot less dump and chase, I find, than they did under Bugner, because Bugner just dump and chase all fucking day.
Right.
Like, I think there's definite, like, systems differences, structural differences. But again, like, I think it's really early. And again, like I said about, like, when I was talking about my career, like, obviously this is just really early preliminary stuff, but all of, like, his big moves so far haven't really paid dividends. David Quinn, I like watching this Sharks team way more than I liked watching last year's team, even though they've got a points percentage of 370.
Right. And I guess that was kind of, I was bearing the lead there a little bit, but you just look at raw points percentage where the team was at last year and where it was this year. I think they're worse than where they were last year, right? If correct.
But they might be, but they were not this fun to watch last year.
True. And I wonder about Erik Karlsson's rejuvenation if it wasn't more along the lines of a number 88 not being here and not taking
health too. Like, who knows? Health is a factor. Like I said, I'm not going to find, I don't want to, like, there's too many people in this circle who try to find reasons to detract from Erik Karlsson's play. Like, oh, well, it's just fucking David Quinn, or it's just this, or it's just that. Like, no, he's been really good. Like, has David Quinn's system helped him? Maybe. I don't think it's completely real out there, but I'm not going to say David Quinn is the reason Erik Karlsson is great again. Erik Karlsson's great because Erik Karlsson's fucking great.
Yeah. And again, I think it has more to do with the different personnel grouping, right? And getting the lion's share of minutes now, and being the alpha on that blue line, and there's no ambiguity there as to who the alpha is. So I think that plays into it too. But I guess going big picture now, we've talked about the juxtaposition of where the Kings are at, being on the upswing, and where the Sharks are at, kind of in the mire of the muck.
Yes, but we also have to remember that the Kings were in the muck a lot longer than the Sharks have been.
Okay, I think you're right there, and I think I wonder about the ability of the Sharks to define and develop talent going forward, whereas I don't have that question with the Kings, right? Because it seems like the Kings are able to find and develop young players. I'm concerned that the Sharks are not able to do the same, and where that will kind of paint this team in the next couple of years versus a team like the Kings.
Here's the problem, though, with that, is that because I don't think people realize, like, again, going back to like contrasting how long the Kings have been in the mud versus the Sharks, like they've had more time to stockpile those players, right? Like the Sharks are just starting to see that, like, just the beginnings, the very, very beginnings of trying to like turn over talent, especially like the Doug Wilson Jr. era, if you want to say. Like we're starting to see like just the earliest results of that now. And you have to consider, like, you know, in 2019, this was a team in the conference finals. You're not drafting, you know what I mean? Like, you're not drafting the same caliber of players the Kings have been drafting for a lot longer. So I'm not 100%, like, I don't know if I'm ready to say, oh no, the Kings the Sharks just can't do it, right? Like, I think we're going to see, like, obviously we've got a Barracuda team right now that I think is pretty interesting. Maybe they're not like this juggernaut AHL team that we had hoped they'd be, but I still think there's a lot of positives on that team.
Yeah, I think that there's some interesting prospects on the Barracuda, and you know they're able to get the win tonight against the Henderson Silver Knights.
Yeah, and I can't speak to that game because I was at work, but I mean, like, if you look at that Barracuda team and what's going well, it's the kids.
Yes. Okay, Montana Onabuchi. Okay, he had a goal tonight. Tristan Robbins, Bordelot, Andrew Agazzino, and Jeffrey Vial all scoring tonight. So that's good. Ryan Merkley getting the second star with 2 assists. That's good.
Yeah. I mean, like, Ryan Merkley, like, here, like, just going through like some of the, like, here's the players that you want to be concerned with, right? And let me just bring this up here quick so I'm not just talking on my ass, even though I pretty much got this down. Like, if you look at this team, right? Like, okay, so you're being led by Andrew Agazzino, who's more of a AHL vet at this point. But then, like, your next 3 top scorers are Tristan Robbins, Thomas Bordelot, and William Eklund.
Yeah.
Hashtag the future, right? Then, you know, but then you've got some other guys that are also doing really, really well too. Like Ryan Merkley, like you said, like Ryan Merkley is a mixed bag, but he's got 9 points. I wonder how many of those are primary assists. You know, Brandon Coe, also 5 points. You know, would you like to see a little bit more from guys like Daniil Gushtin or Coe? Probably, but these guys are still rookies playing their first pro season, right? So I don't know. Like, I look at this and I see, like, when I see Robbins, Bordelot, Eklund at the top, like, these are all first and second round picks.
Right.
That's what you want to see. So, you know, will these guys turn into NHL players? Like, that's why I'm saying, like, the work is just starting to come due now, right?
Right. Or at
I
least
think
that hard developmental work, right? I think.
Right. So that, like, we don't really. It's too early, in my opinion, to say, okay, well, the Sharks just aren't going to be able to develop their way out of this mess. Like, I just think it's too early.
Gotcha. So,
especially when you consider the change in draft philosophy that Doug Wilson Jr. brought in, we'll see what happens under Mike Greer and whoever's leading the scouting now.
Right. So I guess going towards with the eye to the future, then, I think we're both on the keep Timo train. But again,
it depends. Like, so here's the thing, right? Like, I think if you can get pen to paper before the trade deadline, sure. But if there's no pen to paper, you have to move them. The thing with me, right? I know people are like, oh no, we don't need another 8-year deal, but like Timo Meier would still be good when this team's coming out of it. And the one thing that I will always go back to is you don't want to. You can't just like, yes, play the kids is like everyone's favorite thing, but you can't just play the kids. Like when you turn this team over, you can't just turn it over to, to Eklund, Bordelot, Robbins, and everyone else, and just let them kind of just fend for themselves and try to be the entire offense for this team. Like you're still gonna need veteran guys around that can still carry some of the load. And Timo Meier is definitely one of those guys, right? So, but if you can't. But again, if you can't get pen to paper, then like you move them.
And right now, where do you handicap the odds of Timo being a Shark after the deadline this year?
I don't know, because we don't have enough. We don't have enough I don't have enough Mike Greer
background
stuff to base it off of, right? So it's kind of like if this was still Doug Wilson, like I could easily handicap that because we've had more of a body of work that we could kind of base our predictions off of. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough because you've got a team that's in this transitional period. It's got one eye towards the future, but one eye towards trying to compete now. And
I think the compete now is just to sell tickets. I don't think they think they're competing. I think that's something you have to say.
Right. The fan service or what have you.
For sure. If you're going to hound people to buy tickets, you don't want to say, hey, come buy tickets for this team that we think has no chance of doing anything and completely sucks. Like how is that a sales pitch?
So, I mean, you bring that up and that's a good point. If you trade a Timo Meier, I mean, I think that is probably something that would affect ticket sales. And I think it affects more than just the on ice product. That's for sure.
Yeah, but I don't think you should make so here's the difference. I don't think you shouldn't make your hockey decisions based around business decisions. Right? Like your hockey decisions should be completely independent of your business decisions. Now, obviously if you have to, if you flip Timo and you get a bunch of picks or, you get a nice young player or you know what I mean? Like you get like an 8-year prospect and a pick. I think that like obviously you do that and like fan ticket sales be damned because obviously what fixes ticket sales? Winning. So whatever you have to do to get back to winning is what you're going long term to get people back in the seats more full time is you have to make hockey decisions like and just if you make the right hockey decisions, the business decisions will take care of themselves.
Yeah, and Ricky bringing up rebuilding and analytics, but keeping Tim Burke around. I had a little bit of an eyebrow raise on that one too. So that's why I'm not totally on the trade Timo bandwagon at this moment, because I feel that there's more uncertainty with drafting and developing, and especially with the turnover that we've seen, in Sharks management. So to me, Timo's a known commodity. You know what you're going to get from him, and players like him don't come around often. So I think that you've got to make.
I mean, he's a top 10 pick, right? Like, so you definitely, if you're going to trade Timo, you have to get value. But I mean, if you lose him for nothing, that's way worse.
Right. But is Timo, correct me if I'm not, he's still an RFA though.
For one more year. So if you're not going to sign him to a big extension, you're not going to bridge deal Timo Meier.
Right.
You're either going to sign him to a deal that's going to eat a bunch of UFA years, or you're going to trade him to a team for a year and then that team has to hope they can re-sign him after, or sign him to a long-term deal or whatever it is. But you're not bridging Timo Meier. Like, this team isn't this. You're not bridging him.
Right. And so I guess you still have the RFA, though, so that it gives you a little bit of control for this season. So you don't necessarily have to sign him come trade deadline.
But you have to sign him. Like, you have to get him onto another deal. So if you, again, like, when are guys at their peak value? Trade deadline, especially a guy like Timo Meier. Could you imagine, like, with the cap being as prorated as everything is, like, he would fit onto so many teams that are looking for that extra punch to go all the way. Like, if I'm at the trade deadline and Timo Meier is available and I think I'm a legit cup contender, like, I'm making that phone call and I'm loosening the purse strings. I think a lot of teams, like, and again, too, the other thing that you worry about is that, okay, so let's say you don't sign Timo Meier. The problem is Timo Meier has a $10 million qualifying offer. If he signs that qualifying offer, that only keeps him for a year, and then you're risking walking him to UFA.
Well, I mean, at that point, I think you definitely have to make the decision, right? I mean, this year...
He's a lot easier to trade this year at, what's Timo making this year? What does he mean, 6?
Yeah, I think
what's Timo Meier's cap hit?
6.5. Let's take a look.
I'm looking. I'll bring it up here. Yeah, so Timo Meier right now is making $6 million. It's a hell of a lot easier to trade a $6 million Timo Meier than it is to trade a $10 million Timo Meier.
Right. So, man. So, I mean, but the way that you're painting this then is you're saying it's either got to be long-term extension come pre-trade deadline,
pen to paper,
or
pre-trade deadline,
or
needs
to be traded out.
Yep.
Out the door at trade deadline.
Yep.
That does not.
Yeah, because I don't think I don't think you will get the same value for him as if you're trying to trade. Like, if you're trying to trade Timo at $10 million, like, even though it's $10 million 1 year, that makes it a lot harder to fit. I mean, you can keep cap, obviously, and it would be gone at the end of the season, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot easier to trade a guy who's making $6 million than it is a guy making 10.
Right.
Especially when, because again, if you trade him now, the team you're trading him to you're going to extract more value because you have that RFA thing, right? So they still have his rights. They can make a deal. They can, if you trade him to another team, they can make the 8-year deal.
So with Timo's agent coming out and saying, they don't want to talk extension till the end of the season.
Yeah, well, why wouldn't you? When I could just sign my qualifying offer for $10 million, I wouldn't want to talk either.
Right. So, I mean, does that already handcuff the Sharks from making that long-term deal? Or do you think...
I don't. I play hardball. If I'm Mike Greer, I play hardball in this situation. If you don't want to talk, we're trading you.
Yeah.
And then see what happens. And if he wants to be traded, then he gets traded. Again, I don't know. Like, that's just me. We'll see how it plays out. But I think there's a lot of danger in if you don't have a plan to keep Timo Meier and you don't have a contract to throw in front of him before the trade deadline that you think he will sign. What are we doing then? Like, again, because this is a team that's not on the come up. So you need to, if Timo Meier is not going to be a part of this team going forward, you need to extract maximum value for him. Period.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Sharks have their work cut out for them, that's for sure. And, going into that trade deadline, it's going to be very, very interesting because there's going to be some other assets that are floating around as well. You start to now worry a little bit about the goaltending, though, and that being...
I think Reimer will sort himself out. Like, he just, like, this wasn't a good game, but, like, I'm not here completely going crazy about it like I did the last game because because again with James Reimer, the bad games are the exception. With Capo Kakkonen, the good games been the exception.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not gonna completely freak out here over Reimer. I think he had a bad game. Now, if this continues for another week, then we'll revisit this, and I'm sure I'll have plenty of not nice things to say about James Reimer. But right now, he's earned the benefit of the doubt that he will turn this around.
Yeah. And again, Erik Karlsson, I think floating around too. But again, that's going to be a very.
I can't see, like, I understand people saying like, oh my God, we got to trade Erik Karlsson right now. But and look I think Erik Karlsson's been really good this year. I'm one of, I am not an Erik Karlsson disbeliever by any stretch of the imagination, but I also live in reality. And the reality is, of the deal that he signed in San Jose, we've gotten a few really, really good months in a 8-year deal. Like, I don't think there's as many teams lining up to be like, oh, I want to pay Erik Karlsson for 4 more years at 11 or whatever the final number ends up being if the Sharks don't pay him. But I can't imagine paying, like, having that much money, like any amount of money that you keep from the Erik Karlsson deal. You're going to have all that money plus the Brent Burns money to have Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson not be on your team. You're going to pay that money for those two guys to not play for you. Like, at some point, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think teams are going to be, now NHL GMs are incredibly stupid at times, but I won't believe that there is any smoke to this fire then until that, like, I need to see a trade before I'm going to believe. It's going to be one of those things where I don't believe there's anything to it until, I wake up one morning, I go to Twitter and Erik Karlsson's been traded.
Right. Well, I mean, the Sharks have some assets. We'll see what they end up doing coming into the trade deadline. We've still got a little bit of ways to go till we get there.
Teeny bit.
But again, I think you start to now look towards, okay, again, fundamentals and trying to, teach good philosophy right now and try and make do with what you've got. But the prospects, and I mean prospects as in looking further down the season, don't look particularly bright for the team. And again, we're going to have to see if they can pull themselves out of this tailspin. But with the current roster as constructed, I don't have a lot of faith that will happen. And
no, this is a bad team, and it's gonna do badly. And like I said, I mean, the problem with, like, and I could sit here and just be like, oh man, Tank Nation, this is the best, and I will do that when the season's over and the draft is here. We'll celebrate like crazy, but like in the moment, all I can do is come on here and talk about the game, talk about the games that are in front of us,
right,
and kind of just pretend that I still want this team, because, like, at the end of the day, like, I still enjoy when this team wins.
Yeah, and it still sucks when their opponent, or when their rivals beat them, like tonight.
And and then, like, the game against Seattle, like, and there are some games where I clearly still get mad when they lose, even though those have been far fewer.
Yeah. Michael Molasses asking, did you guys talk about Lindblom yet? We did very briefly, but
a little bit. I mean,
there's not really much to say there. It just hasn't worked out.
Like I said, the early the early returns so far on Mike Grier's moves have not panned out very well at all. Matt Benning's fucking terrible. Kunin, Lindblom, pretty much been busts. Yeah. Yeah. It's not good.
Well, with that being said, I think we'll end the show there. Your Sharks are 28th in the league as currently standing with 17 points. They are 7-13-3. Not fun times being had by the Sharks, but they've got some interesting opponents coming up here in the next little bit. We'll see if they can right the ship. Of course, Pucknologists take over on Sunday, if you guys haven't already seen. Ian, what are your final thoughts on where the people can find you?
Final thoughts are, when the Sharks do bad, it's bad. I do want to say something, and I did kind of mention it on Twitter, but I want to say it on air for the people that aren't on Twitter and maybe we're a little put off. So the last show, I started with a really unfortunate bit. I was just trying to like make light of, just Black Friday stupidity. But I went a little crazy with it, a little too far. And then, of course, the day after I make these comments, there's an unfortunate mass shooting at a Walmart in Chesapeake, Virginia. And obviously, I didn't know that was going to happen. And
no.
Like, and I didn't, I didn't obviously like know that was going to happen. And obviously those comments that I made happened before that happened. So it wasn't like I was making light of a awful situation. But still it was, in today's climate, it was kind of dumb. And I do apologize. Like, I don't think it was a good bit. I thought it was kind of a dumb bit. When I listened back to it, I kind of cringed and it was bad. And it wasn't a good bit. And obviously in light of recent events, I feel terrible about it because, again, like, it's not really funny when, the families of 5 unfortunate people have the worst Thanksgiving ever. Like, I couldn't imagine coming up to like having something like that happen on a holiday. And then like the rest of your life, that family's like, oh, Thanksgiving is coming. Yeah. That's when, my family member was tragically murdered. Yeah. Like, how shitty is that? Yeah. So obviously it wasn't a good bit. It, I just, every day you just try to be better, and that's what I do. But for anyone who was put off by the bit, it made me cringe too, for anyone who maybe didn't like it.
Well, definitely
I didn't like it after the fact either.
Well, definitely appreciate you coming out and saying that, and again, we just try to do the best we can, and when you're given the benefit of hindsight, you're able to say, hey, this was something that I kind of feel bad about, and something.
Yeah, it was a shitty bit, and I just didn't want anyone to like, because there are people out there that do not like our little umbrella and the people that are underneath it, that and thankfully no one's really kind of used that against me, but if you do want to, it's fine, go ahead, but just know that I think it was a bad bit and I bring it too.
Again, I think coming from you and coming from your perspective, and being able to see that and apologize on it, and really come out in front of that, it speaks a lot, and I think, again, very appreciative of you and what you do here for us, and coming on these shows with us. So it's always a pleasure. So from that perspective, I think a lot of people understood where you were coming from, and again, I just appreciate that, and appreciate you saying what you have. As far as my final thoughts and where the people can find me, my final thoughts are, just want to continue to see the Sharks do well with effort, and continue to put good efforts, 0 to 60, and really try to work on that foundational game, because at this point, you've got the personnel that you've got, and really you can only try to do the best you can with what you've got. As far as where the people can find me, you can find me across all the social media garbage using my first name and my last name. And in case you missed us and you want to check us out again, check us out on the YouTube Rewind. Of course, we're also on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Audacity, and of course, tealtownusa.com. So for everybody at Teal Town USA, Ian, AJ, Eric, Dana, we all thank you for checking us out. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real teal, and we'll see you after the next game on the Pucknologist Takeover.